I will now request Lalchand Malahi from Umarkot. He is a member of parliament, in fact, twice elected as a Hindu from a Hindu majority part of Sindh. Now that's very, very unusual. And so, Lalchand Sahab, um, let's hear a little bit about your story before you actually get into telling us about minorities. Why did you run for parliament? Was it easy? How did you get there?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, namaste. Yes, I was a journalist and I had to go and contest elections of local bodies at Umarkot in 2001 under Musharraf regime. I was elected as a union Nazim, though it was not my choice, but it was choice of my friends to contest. And later I was a journalist and I was a graduate from University of Sindh. So I stayed back and tried to help people and resolve their issues. And I created my own followership and voters. And that followed me to 2013. PTI contacted me as they were running in that constituency for a support, and I am not an elected, but I am a minority reserve seat, and they promoted me to the reserve seat of my minority to the parliament. Basically, Umarkot and Tharparkar are the most backward areas of Pakistan, where you usually see the stories, kids dying of malnutrition, waterborne diseases, and etc. They have their only source of livelihood is rain. If it doesn't rain, they come into the problem. So thank you. I would like to go to the topic. At first, I am very much thankful to the Asma Jahangir Legal Aid Cell for inviting me to such a prestigious and memorable occasion of this conference. Asma Jahangir may not be with us, but we all are the torch bearers of her mission. I am not a human rights worker, just become recently, but I am a member of Human Rights Commission for last 25 years. And I have become a human rights activist, being impressed by her, and I worked from Umarkot in 90s. Especially, I had a good work on, along with Shakil Pathan, a special task force for Sindh, and we were working, our main subject area was bonded labor. At that time, a lot of private jails were busted, and people were released, and they mostly belonged to Hindu minority scheduled castes. Let me tell you that I am Hindu by time, since time immemorial. I am Sindhi for last 5,000 years. I am Pakistani since 1947. I am from the land of Sufis and mystics. My forefathers are buried under this land. I am telling you this because normally Hindus are equated with Hindustan. Whenever people meet me in mostly in Islamabad or Punjab areas or KPK, they don't think that even Hindu community resides or living in Pakistan and they are their citizens. After partition, it was not easy for our forefathers to migrate. They were told that Hindustan is for Hindus and Pakistan is for Muslims. But we Sindhi people, but all of we treat our land as mother. So we decided, our forefather decided not to leave this land because we are real owners of this land. Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah encouraged us to live in Pakistan when he said the religion would have no relation with the state and the state would have no religion. But later, it did not materialize. And the state had a religion, that is Islam. Extremism is not holding extreme views. It is also imposing your views on others, be it cow vigilance in India or those people who vandalize temples in Pakistan, be it extrajudicial killings in Indian-held Kashmir, or the killing of Salman Taseer just because he holds his own views. We are great admirers of Constitution of Pakistan. It guarantees our fundamental rights. But extremists, again, translate these constitutions for their own purposes, their own definitions. We have signed several international covenants for the protection and promotion of minority rights. But the Constitution have lacunas too, though it is sacrosanct, but it has lacunas. My friend already said objective resolution was enough to disequal or kill the equality sense in Pakistan. I would like to quote some things, the happenings which increasingly disalienate but alienate minorities in Pakistan. During the previous government of Nawaz Sharif, a land was allotted at Islamabad to Hindu Panchayat for the purposes of building a temple, a crematorium, and a community hall. As soon as the inauguration of that project was carried out, there was hue and cry. Not only religious organizations, but some political organizations also jumped in and opposed and said, in the state of Pakistan, having Islam as a religion, official religion, minorities cannot build their places of worship anew. They can renovate, they can refurbish the old one, but they cannot build the new temples or churches. The issue landed in the Council of Islamic Ideology. Islamic ideology deliberated and suggested that old temples be renovated, but not clearly opposed the construction of new one, but they recommended that the old ones only be renovated. Thus, there are 20 members or more in the Council of Islamic Ideology, and they all are Muslims. They ensure that no sect is left, whether it is Shia or Sunni, but also ensure that there is no minority member in that committee or in that council. And those 20 or more scholars of Islam decide the fate of minorities, and that is a constitutional body. Later, Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, constituted a parliamentary committee with the topic to protect minorities from forced conversions. This committee, having 22 members from Senate and National Assembly, held meetings, visited Sindh, met stakeholders, and finally, they drafted a law. A subcommittee of that committee drafted a law with the help of Ministry of Human Rights led by Dr. Shiri Mazari Sahiba. Over that, when that law was produced in the committee, presented before the committee, the Religious Affairs Ministry insisted that it be sent to the Council of Islamic Ideology first, and it was sent to Council of Islamic Ideology for their input. To give their input, that council called Mia Mittu, a notorious man alleged of converting minor Hindu girls. They invited him at Islamabad, and what was the title? Title was of that occasion, brainstorming on forced conversions. Mia Mitu brainstormed Council of Islamic Ideology on forced conversions, and they highly obliged him and raised 42 objections on the bill, including the age, marriage, and process. Thus, once again, those 20 Muslim scholars decided on the fate of those Hindu girls. It seemed from the objections, if you will go by that Council of Islamic Ideology seemed complacent or happy that this process may go on, it doesn't need to be stopped. It is Teri Mandir attack in KPK. There was no reason, but the temple was razed to the ground. In Bhong village of Bahawalpur, an 8-year child enters a mosque to drink water. The mosque admin catches him. Out of fear, the kid urinates. Admin goes to the police station and lodges the FIR against the kid of violating the sanctity of a mosque.
Teenager boy, underage he was.
The police arrested him. The police challaned him. The court bailed him out, the minor. But this didn't satisfy the admin. They went on. Mobs attacked the temple and it was vandalized. Temples are mosques, they are buildings. They can't be built again. But when hearts are broken, it's very difficult to build them back. The impact of such incidents is devastating. People live under perpetual fear. They fear any neighbor, any time can allege me of the controversial laws. They can. They consider themselves unsafe. They are losing hope. And that is the impact. The 20% population, there was 20% population in Pakistan of minorities in 1947. Now it has diminished to just 3%. Being a member of parliament, being a parliamentary secretary human rights, I feel, I agree, there's no doubt of liberal, progressive people in Pakistan. Majority of Pakistanis are liberal and progressive and democratic. But we all are hijacked by a small minority. Those 5,000 people who hold 220 million people hostage and come out of jails. Those 5% people are everywhere, be it parliament, be it the society, anywhere. And they hold hostage the rest of the 90% or 95% because they are so powerful. All is not that bleak. Judiciary of Pakistan has shown great interest in protecting the minority rights. In 2014, a landmark judgment was authored by Supreme Court. Though it still needs implementation, you see, it is Bahawalpur or Kari temple Supreme Court took suo motu actions, and those were rebuilt. Supreme Court also ordered to vacate or to get vacated all those properties which are occupied by others and belong to minorities. Prime Minister Imran Khan and Human Rights Minister Dr. Shri Mazari have a clear understanding of the issues. And I am happy, though it is the first time that on forced convergence, such a high level, at least a committee was formed. I am happy that the committee, the media, and the foot soldiers of human rights forced, and the Federal Minister of Religious Affairs came on national media and agreed that there are issues of convergence in Sindh and some parts of Punjab. Yes, I agree. It's not an issue of whole Pakistan. It's happening in some parts of Sindh and Punjab. Hopefully, coming days may become better. And once again, I am thankful to the Asma Jahangir EdCell to invite me here and to communicate with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lalchand ji.